Hi there, it's Ron. Uh, Want to make a little video and show off this hat. You can see it's a couple sizes too small for me. Zeus is right here, in case you wonder. Anyway, we're about to eat, but I wanted to make a video about the terrorist attack on Capitol Hill last week and the Thin Blue Line and my father, who was a real life super cop, pretty much. Uh, and after you watch this video, if you want to, you can look up his obituary. He passed about 10 years ago, and it's quite impressive. Hey, Zeus, buddy, no, don't chew on that. Anyway, this is a real British bobby hat from I think from the early 1970s, London Metropolitan Police. And my father was given this on a visit he made to London back then from one of his friends who worked for Scotland Yard. Excuse me. Hey, Zeus, don't chew on that. My father, Sergeant Ronald W. McCracken of Dallas Police Department. I'm not a junior, by the way. He didn't want to do that to me, but he started in law enforcement after he served in the Korean War in combat. A Purple Heart, Chinese artillery shell hit him, and a few other guys. Excuse me. Years after that, he worked briefly for the Border Patrol down in Laredo, and then eventually as a guard in Rahway State Prison, New Jersey, and then got on the police force in Westfield, New Jersey, and then we moved down here to Dallas. I was about 6 years old, I think, because he had a terrific career opportunity here with Dallas Police Department. And sorry, Zeus is feeling a little rowdy. It's all right, Zeus. But of course, he started out on patrol here, and some of it was late night patrol. But my father, he had received some initial explosives training in the Army when he served in Korea. But he started taking he took some classes at FBI Academy and got more training. And long and short of it, he started the Explosives Ordnance Unit, Dallas Police Department Bomb Squad in the early 70s, which at that time, I think they were one of only 4 big city police departments that had a bomb squad at that time. Very innovative. He was one of the 3 founding members of the International Association of Bomb Technicians and Investigators, IABTI. You look that up, quite an impressive organization. My father started that. He became one of the top bomb experts in the world, and trained bomb technicians in Dallas, but other places too. He trained bomb technicians in Scotland Yard and advised people. Scotland Yard, New York Police Department, other police departments, and made some training videos and things like that. Also, he helped train SWAT teams for Dallas Police Department. Whenever a president or vice president or foreign dignitary, whenever a big shot came to Dallas, he was the point man for Dallas Police Department. Zeus, please stop. He was the point man for Dallas Police Department. Excuse my dog. He was the point man for Dallas Police Department, coordinating with Secret Service. Bottom line, my father knew quite a bit about security, policing, etc. After he retired from Dallas Police Department, He briefly retired, and then he became Director of International Security for American Airlines. The man knew his stuff on security. Now, the Capitol Hill terrorist attack, and it does meet the definition, both the U.S. definition and the international definition of terrorism. It does meet both those definitions, which are more or less the same definitions anyway. I could just hear him dropping F-bombs about it if he had been around watching those videos of the attack. It's stunning seeing just how unprepared DC police were. He would say that was deliberate, because they knew at least a week ahead of time that they were going to have a large crowd. Zeus, please stop. That they were going to have a large crowd in DC. He knew that. I mean, they knew that. And judging from different other Trump rallies, Zeus, please stop that. Judging from other Trump rallies, at the very least, they knew it could get quite boisterous. So, DC police can't put all the blame on them. But whoever's responsible, that was deliberate, the level of unpreparedness. Now, as far as that's being investigated, and probably quite thoroughly, someone's going to pay, probably a few people are going to pay the price for that, because, a cop was killed. A cop was murdered by that mob. As far as, and I saw actually a couple of former FBI people, on the different news stations that they go on, and they said what my father had said about anything like this many times. By the way, via my father, I met a lot of police officers, DEA agents, FBI agents, ATF agents. These men and women who work for FBI, ATF, DEA, all that, most of them are real serious people, and they're really good at their jobs. So these former FBI people on the news, they advised anyone who went up those steps and entered that building, they advised them to turn themselves in. Because pretty much every one of these people who entered the building, they will be found. Now, I would ask my father sometimes about this. Sometimes it seems like justice takes a long time, and he always said, well, the wheels of justice turn very slowly. So, of course, as we all know, dozens of these people have already been arrested. There's dozens more awaiting. One thing is they want to make certain they have the right person. Legal liabilities, and also just that'd be a real black mark on the FBI if they round up the wrong people. It appears they're getting the right people. But some of these people, like I said, have already been arrested. So a few of the smart ones are turning themselves in. The others, it might be a year before they get a knock on the door, or agents show up at their workplace. It might be 2 years. If they're smart, they'll turn themselves in and spill the beans. And that's one thing that is going to happen in all this, is a lot of these, Susie, please stop. A lot of these people who attacked Capitol Hill, they're going to be offered plea bargains that might not be official plea bargains, like, through the court. The agents are going to show up at their house or their workplace and sit down and talk to them and say, hey, listen, we know that you're not one of the really bad people in that mob, and the offer they're going to make to these people is, you give us names, addresses, phone numbers, eyewitness account of things of people who were doing bad things, and they get a lot of leniency. Might not be, I don't know, might not be a lot of leniency, but Zeus, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. Okay. Anyway, you gotta stop, buddy. Thank you. Didn't know I'd be wrestling him with this. Well, because this is serious stuff. So don't be surprised if in the coming months, in the next year or two, you see about some of these knuckleheads that took part. You see quite a few of them getting plea bargains, because what they're doing is they're catching bigger fish. They're catching more fish, and they're catching bigger fish by doing that, and they're getting more convictions that way. And as far as, I know a lot of these people, they're gonna pretend they have a code of silence and all that other stuff. Like I said, my father, he'd worked in Rahway State Prison in New Jersey, which was one of the absolute worst places, especially in the 1960s. And, well, throughout his law enforcement career, he had a lot of experience dealing with these people. And he said, Ron, they're all snitches. He said pretty much every person in the penitentiary, Zeus, stop. He said pretty much every one of them, he said they'll turn their own mother in for a carton of cigarettes. That whole thing of snitches get stitches and code of silence and all that, he said that's just a bunch of BS. And that's how they broke up the mafia. You just offer them deals. They'll turn in their own mom. They don't care. They'll turn in their own mom for a cheeseburger. Anyway, of course there are exceptions here and there, but you think about it. People, if they're facing the possibility of 20 years in federal, but they're offered a deal where they might have to only do 2 years, or maybe even probation, they're going to take it. Well, anyway, I've just been thinking about it since my, like I said, my father had a very long and illustrious law enforcement career. And what those different FBI, usually former FBI people, and well, officially they've stated this too, if you were there, turn yourself in. He would strongly advise that the courts go a lot easier on the people that do that. And he's finally calmed down. When I'm almost done with the video, he's finally calmed down. But that's such a black mark on our history. And I think it doesn't excuse any of them, but I think, as we're seeing with these arrest videos, where I've seen arrest videos, these big, strong dudes throwing themselves on the ground and having a tantrum, and women too. Several women I've seen get arrested on these videos, throw themselves on the ground like a 4-year-old and start throwing a tantrum and no, no, no. And so, all them, they're real tough when they're in a big mob. But when they're confronted one-on-one, they crumble. They just completely melt down and crumble. And Jesus, what do you hear, buddy? So it's going to be interesting to watch, but like I said, don't be surprised if there's a lot of plea bargains, but they're only doing that to catch bigger fish and to catch more fish. I wouldn't worry too much about security at the inauguration. That's going to be tight, and example of that, of how much they can lock down a city. Example of that is after the Boston Marathon bombings. By the time I was finally able to leave downtown Boston that night and go back to my hotel room down in Braintree, which was quite a distance away from Boston, they already had that city locked down. I mean, they basically closed Boston for most of that week while they were pursuing those two terrorists. The federal government has that ability to just shut a city down. And that's basically what's going to be going on in D.C. And good luck if any of these knuckleheads think that any nonsense is going to succeed at the inauguration. They're in for a world of hurt if they do. I know these idiot oath keepers, and there's some other. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but they're quite delusional. So I have a lot of confidence in security for the inauguration. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well, and it'll still be interesting to watch the inauguration because it'll be unlike any other we've ever had. All right, everyone, have a good night, and talk to you soon. One more look at this wonderful hat. All right, have a good night.